Alright, let's boogie. Hey everyone, this is Heath Foley. I am tuning in for the stream. By tuning in, I mean I'm making it. I'm not actually watching it, although I'm kind of watching it by making it. Today, I'm going to be working on a... oh boy, get out of that character screen. I'm going to be working on a commission for a big fan of Wander and the character designs I've done for it. The guy I'm doing it for is great. I'm not gonna, immediately reveal who unless he wants me to when he tunes in here. But basically today I'm designing a custom Wander character for him based off the class he came up with called the Warden. And this character is going to be draconic in nature, so it's going to be, lizard themed with horns and wings and the works and plate armor, and I'm actually pretty excited about it. It's a pretty fun idea. It reminds me of a bunch of... Oh, hey buddy, thanks for tuning in. I'm going to be working on this for him, and I've got some images I'm going to be referring to every now and then, and we'll just see how it goes. And luckily, if he's watching this, you'll get live feedback on things. So, oops, my bad, my B-dog. Alright, so let me see, how do I want to get started here? So typically, when I start working on these characters, trying to think. Let me do something real quick if you guys don't mind, because I think this is something that I need to check out and maybe make a little bit more visible. We'll work on it later. Not worried about it. Okay, so today I'm going to be starting on a character. Typically with these kind of sketches, I just kind of launch into it. I've been doing this for a little while now, so it makes it a little bit easier. So first of all, I'm going to zoom out because I'm not really worried about big details right now, and we're going to just kind of be working on the overall pose. So I'm doing something that is like the basics of almost any character drawing. Is I'm kind of working on the structure of this guy. Actually, it's Wander oriented, so I need to make sure that my anatomy is a little bit goofy. By the way, this is going to be very rough and tumble going through here, so I'm going to go ahead and apologize. Yeah, it's a panda, clearly. You know what? We're just going to move this over here. Small. All right. Luckily, I've been drawing a crap ton recently, so I am very up to speed right now, which is nice. Actually, you know what? If we're going for proud. funny, I've been doing a lot of traditional painting recently, and I've learned there's certain advantages to doing so. But I've also learned that with digital painting, I can just use the transform tool and Control+Z, so... You know, the nice little things. Oh, hey man, how's it going? Using the same brush when you do line work. Actually no. So this is the same brush I use when I'm doing rendering stuff. So like if I was doing shadows and was trying to, you know, every now and then for some reason it goes super hard. But this is almost like a fun little rendering brush for me. So, you know, I can like chisel out shapes of things using it, but it also works really well for like just doing this like small detail work. It almost acts like a little marker. Otherwise, what's up, Richard Bennett? Thanks for tuning in. Drawing hands and claws and all sorts of other fun things. So fun fact, the difference between this and Dragonkin is that this, with Wander, basically all the anatomy is a little cartoony, a little overemphasized. I feel like with D&D, it's a tiny bit, but it's they kind of aim for a certain degree of, I wouldn't say realism, that just feels kind of inappropriate to say about it, but you know, with Wander I can kind of fully embrace the cartoony nature of it all. I'm also beefing this guy out. So right now I'm just kind of working on understructure. You know, basically for me, everyone's got their own way of doing this. Some guys who are really good can just like bust these shapes out without really thinking about it a whole lot. I love to claim I was that good, but no. But it's also kind of neat. It means I can find improvements in places. Oh yeah, we're giving him big old Arnold Schwarzenegger legs. Yeah. Well, he's a dragon. He's a dragon type character. He's got to be able to launch himself to a certain degree. But this is coming along nicely. It's actually probably one of my favorite parts of the process is the actual conceptualizing it. Yeah, you did, man. And I feel bad that I just couldn't make time for it. I didn't have time to do my own art. To tell you the honest to God truth is I wanted to do more commissions, but I didn't have the time. And I'm just now starting to. So anybody, if you've hit me up about it, just know I haven't ignored you guys. I've been requested to do this commission from a long time ago and kept promising it and kept having to put it off for X, Y, and Z reasons. So I'm glad I can finally get to it. So friends, if you ask me for a commission, maybe a chance I can get to it. But right now, there is a waiting list. Alright, let me see. So it's draconic in nature, so it's going to have that like double hinged leg. Which really, the anatomy for this stuff is really interesting because it's almost double hinged. Yeah, for good reasons. It's almost double hinged, but it's more like, it's almost what our anatomy is. It's just this part right here is more like a long foot instead of like a calf or something like that. Oh yeah, Shovel Rich ones. Hey, Shovel Knight. I actually really like drawing characters with this kind of leg. I don't know why. By the way, I hope you guys are digging the music. I kind of got my first two videos I made and loaded up on YouTube got copyright claimed, so I had to use YouTube's like custom system to do this, and it's been going good. Now we're gonna draw this foot slightly back. So if you notice, this foot's on this plane. Basically, I'm drawing this foot just the tiniest bit back to imply that his stance is just slightly different. Just helps keeps things interesting. I had to at the beginning if it was a specific animal. So like if I was drawing a red panda, well guess what? I can't just make up red panda anatomy, right? So, well, I did, but I want to keep it close. Because, you know, when I've drawn Roland like eight different ways to Sunday at this point. In the process of doing so, I've drawn him a ton of different ways, a ton of different times, and you know, it's a little different each time. But you know, with something like this, like, you know, a draconian character, like I've got general ideas for how legs work. I can kind of make those up as I go. I know I want this thing to have claws, so I can add little claws to it, but really, like, the head is his biggest challenge, because I can come up with a dozen different ways to draw this dude's head. But luckily I've drawn enough dragons, drawn enough lizards, drawn enough cats and wolves and all sorts of things that I can kind of come up with something. And so this is way up here, but I'm gonna plan on dropping it back down at a certain point. Also on my off screen, I've got some reference photos that I was sent from my dude about this overall and trying to get kind of an overall feel for how he wants it to be. And I think I need to make this a little sharper. Oh yeah. I've got some interesting ideas with that. So one of the ideas was to make it the wings kind of like a cape. And I think that'll be interesting once I eventually get to it. And then of course he needs horns, but the question is what kind of horns? Horns are one of those interesting things that there's 1,000 different ways to do it. You know, I could give him big ram horns, but I think I've kind of done it like this before. And then of course he's got 2 horns, so we're gonna have a little bit. Oh yeah, man, that's a sweet cape. So, talking about the wing idea, I'm gonna make it pretty. I had 2 ideas, and I'll show you in a second here once I get the head out of the way. I think maybe. It's gotta have a big head because it's Wander. Which also means I can play with some of the anatomy because the head's big. Yep.
Saying come through, I got, getting, you never know what can happen, you know what I'm saying?
I don't know.
You might get a little physical, I think I'm ready to make that move, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, that's what you want.
Let me see. I'm gonna rotate this a bit. So I have more. You know what? Yeah. Yeah, I like that. Oh yeah, horn's gonna connect to the head somehow. And he's gonna have a little bit of ear hole. Seems like, oh my god. Imagine this dude is a little intense.
You look just like Mac's girlfriend. She died last week. She didn't die. But you look just
Let
like.
me see.
We could do like a double date or something crazy like that. My treat.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, Tristan, I'm going to ask you a quick question here, which is this sword your guy uses. How big are we talking? Like, is this a broadsword? So the idea is the broadsword like 2.5 to 3 feet long? Is it a and excuse the expression if you got kids watching, bastard sword, which is a little bit longer? It's kind of in between a broadsword and a two-handed sword, or is it a full-blown two-handed sword? Because I know you want the whole whip feature to it, kind of like Ivy from Soul Calibur, but question is what scale is this thing? Because if you want, I can draw it two-handed and make it like big and freaking cool. Like the idea is that I could almost, I'm gonna do this on another layer. I could almost have him like have it way freaking up here. One-handed. Okay, so it's not going to be way up here. Totally cool. So this is still an appropriate length. Yeah, most tanks. Yeah. Oh wait, I want a new layer. I'm just gonna do that. He's got a power fist in the air. By the way, guys, my wife is at home today, so she may bust in here and take a look at this thing. Be warned, I fully welcome it because I love her and she is funny. Alright, I think that's a good enough base. I kind of want to adjust the eye a little bit. Yeah. I think what I remember seeing is you kind of had, one of your reference pieces had a little bit of hair on it that will render out just a tiny bit. Oh. Does she get a mic too? Dude, she is a working woman. She is busy on her own calls, so the short answer is no. I'm just gonna have her, if she does talk, either it's gonna be normal tones or it's gonna be just to get her on mic. Oh yeah, tail. That's right. Characters have tails. Yep. We're just gonna pull this maneuver. You know what? That's a little thick for Blizzard Tail. Yeah, it can be all me, no preferences. Okay. Well, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of like this quasicotal the scales almost making a helmet as it is. You know what? I just realized we need to beef out that shoulder. Because I think with that whole quasicotal thing, you know what I'm talking about, the Mayan, like, bird dragon god. I think that'll add for some interesting visuals. Alright. Get this shaping up nicely. This is going to be fun and interesting. Alright. Oh, and for anyone tuning in, please make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. I'm on YouTube. As I just forgot on the main page, I forgot to put a YouTube logo. Fun! I'm on YouTube is Foley1234, so you can look up my channel there. I'm loading all these videos up full length on there, so if any chunk cuts out and you want to watch, you can check it out on there. I'd also like to do shorter, like 2.5-minute versions of these videos, just to like get everyone caught up. And then beyond that, I've got Instagram at artofhf, Facebook, same deal, facebook.com/artofhf, and I'm also on Twitter as Heathosaurus Art. That is my name, Heath Saurus, and then Art. Yeah, like, subscribe, do whatever. I'm having to draw anything anyway, so I figured I might as well record, stream, and make things happen. Slightly soften the face. So a little bit more gentle. I can do that. Actually, he's not far off right now. You know what? I do like this back here. Let's do a little editing, shall we? Just to get it. It's fine. And then, you know what? We'll give him a chin. How to make it wander? Give it a giant Disney eye. Give me a split second. Forgot I'd done something. Okay. Okay, so we were talking about wings earlier. So I have 2 ideas for that. And I'm gonna just give this a certain amount of shape. He's got his hand on the pommel. We'll do a little cross section of the leather. dimension. Trust me, I plan on building a desk soon, so. And trust me, Tristan, I plan on fleshing this thing out. It right now looks like a Roman gladius, but I will flesh this thing out in good detail, I promise. Make it fancy. Just want to get a general shape down so I can get into this next stage. Bye, Panda. Alright, so I'm going to notch that down. So we have a base for the character, right? So now, let me see if I can't get this sucker. So the wing idea. So in my mind, he's gonna have pauldrons. So there's two ideas. There's either they're kind of, as my wife and I call it when our dogs do it, cross pausies, i.e. the gargoyles technique. And then, you know, the rest bills out. But because it is his wings, they would have some degree of form. Actually, that's a really important thing that I need to make sure to illustrate in here. Since these are wings, they are going to have a rigid finger bone-like structure inside of them. Make sure that they actually, you know, can stay rigid while flying. Little bit, something like that, and then I just want this to go like all the way down here. All right, Tristan, so that's one idea. Tell you what, I will do a little we'll put this guy up here for now, just so you can get an idea. Take that out. Actually, yeah, no. I probably, so what I do here, Tristan, is I'd go more gargoyles. I have an alternative idea, which I think you'll think is really cool. But I go more gargoyles shorthand just because, you know, this guy's going to have big old metal pauldrons. Like, you know, if I'm drawing giant metal pauldron on this guy, you know, if I try and go the Batman route on it, it's gonna just like go over all this stuff. What the? Oh, that's why. Okay. It's just going to kind of go all over this stuff. It's not a bad look at all, but I think we can do something a little bit more interesting if we do it. So that's one way. I think also there's an alternative, which I think would be really freaking cool, is and this is going to be a little weird at first. Oh my god, I don't know why every now and then it just goes like fat line. I think that may be a potential option of going over his shoulder. Ooh. Or, which may be able to do, have this kind of X over his chest. Yeah, I mean, if you want the truth of the matter, Kristen, for like the safest for him, logically, is going to be kind of this Batman maneuver here, or not, or Gargoyle-y maneuver. But I think there's ways we can make this pretty cool. Why are you doing this? The name of the layer funny. Yeah. Yeah, I think doing the kind of gargoyle-y route is probably going to be the smartest option there. I mean, if you want to go over the shoulders too, man, that's your call. Feel free. Oh, the lower one? You talking about this one? Let's explore this one a little bit. Batman one? You're talking about... Oh lord. Sorry. Got all my layers screwed up. Yep. Talking about this one, Tristan? Oh. Well, hold on, give me a second. Ah, I can do that. Well, let me do a little sketch work on what the armor is going to look like. So I think the armor is going to be pretty important to this process overall. Well, the only available fully armored Wanderer is Arctis, though we've got plans on tweaking that. Obviously. Well, actually, no. The other fully armored one is Gunbjorn. That giant polar bear in plate armor. You know what? I kind of feel like having a repeat element in the armor, like the chest piece. Something that pops out. I feel like dragons would make really good armors. Let's see. By the way, Tristan, your warden is paladin-esque. Would you say he's got something he stands for, something he believes in, some kind of order or mantra he follows? Well, he's got a lot of cloth on him, but he's still got plate armor. I'm not gonna lie, you sent me a reference piece. It's got just a giant monster piece of armor on, or like a giant armored belt. I love that. Gotcha. All about protecting others. feel like this needs just another layer of awesomeness to it. It's real armor, so it gets chipped. Actually, that's a good reminder. Real armor has curves. So, something about throwing a little bit of battle damage on something just make it seem a lot more realistic to me. Don't trust a dude in shiny armor. That's all I'm saying. Never, ever, ever trust a dude in shiny armor, because 9 times out of 10, they are not the dude that is actually saving the day. You want the guy that's beat up and missing an eyeball. So the power arm, I'm imagining that's him kind of like rallying his teammates, or actually, you know what? If he is rallying his teammates, then he probably needs to be smiling a little bit. Well, do this. I'm gonna imagine this is a positive guy, a stern guy, but a positive guy. So maybe he's like, yeah, we're gonna do this. By the way, it's Tristan. Just so you know, man, this is your commission. So if you want something tweaked or changed or something, now is the time.
Waking up anew, wasting time is all I do. But now when I'm with
Oh, dude, I am a fan of doing cloth like that whenever possible.
I'm dropping you texts now. You said you want me when it's
Like, yeah, the dude's got droopy wings and whatnot, but oh man, this style of cloth has always been really cool. Like, drawing knights in armor with tabards is my jam.
sun is about to go down. So what you doing tonight? It's everything I can't think of.
Alright, this dude's sultry voice is freaking me out, so I'm gonna just keep going.
Wasting time.
Let's get that going. Armor's pretty cool so far. All right. I'm debating on how far I want to take everything. All right. Tristan, on a scale of 1 to 10, how armored out do you want this guy to be? Do you want him to be a walking fortress, or do you want him to be a still be mobile enough to do a little damage? Because I don't mind fortressing him out. Real shirts of his teeth and scenes. Okay, the horns are intimidating. Well, I think with the horns, I think shortening them up will help for sure. Oh, no, there's no issues with making him into a giant brick fortress character. I'm 100% on board. I gotta do something. There we go. You know what's really cool? Because I haven't worked on... Yeah, here. Since I haven't worked on arm armor yet, which I'm glad I didn't, I can make adjustments. This intimidating horns. Yeah, that's a little bit better. Try something. I do not know that phone number. That's way too low. You know what? If I'm going to do this, I'm also going to have to make some fun arrangements. Alright, I think I need to be right back. Give me a second, guys. Alright, back. Let me try some here, Tristan. Sketch his neck a bit. Oh, yeah, sorry, not. There we go. Is that a little bit more like it, buddy? Cool. And sorry I had to run away. We are having some bookshelves getting delivered here soon, and I need to make sure they were good to go. And they'll be fine, don't worry about it. I'll get it worked out. So the reference images you sent me, Tristan, are great. I just need to make sure that I'm not copying something verbatim. Like, you know, there's certain things like the gargoyles, the cape locking around the neck and going behind them, that's cool and all. But, you know, taking some D&D level art references that you sent me, which were great, I need to be careful about that kind of thing because I don't want to just copy something verbatim, and I can make this work pretty well. If you were to try and get it sculpted, we would need more gap. It depends. So if you were going to get this sculpted right now, let's go ahead and put this sword point here. So, handle, and let's say blade. And like I said, I'm going to work on the blade. It's a very basic shape, but... So if you were to get this sculpted, basically, this would be broken down. Let me get something in here again. I think go ahead and get rid of that arm and that arm because those are dead now. Trust me, if you were worried about getting this thing sculpted, man, you were talking to the right dude. And you know what? Horns have texture, so we're going to do something like that. Kind of do like how Ibexus's works. So, if this is to get sculpted, I'll notch this layer up too. We'll just erase out the parts I don't want, don't need. All of that, put it there, we'll take that out. That's all fine. So if you were to get this thing sculpted right now, basically the breakdown would work like this. No, stop it. Basically, if you were to get this thing sculpted, the only thing you would really have to worry about is cuts. So I actually just taught a bunch of SCAD students about this recently. Basically, you're going to be cutting this thing in 3 different places. Are you kidding me? Okay. So typically when you're worrying about getting something sculpted, you have to worry about undercuts. What I mean is that when you're getting these things sculpted, come on. When you're getting these things sculpted, basically the sculpting process is going to think about casting it upside down. The idea is that you can cast all the resin and it will flow down into the little bits and pieces in here, and it'll go like that because the idea is that they'll stick a slot or something like this on the base of it so that it all connects. So basically, you know, here's your mold for it, and then the resin goes in from the top and gets poured in there. So then you've got to worry about certain things that are like undercuts, like right here under the chin. That would be a massive undercut. Or something like under the arms here would be an undercut. And probably the tail's connection here, like this would be an undercut. So basically what that means is you got to keep that in mind when you are eventually going to be working on your other piece. So what I would do if I was going to get this thing sculpted is I would probably get it cut here. And probably as a second cut, let me see, where's that armor layer? Yeah, probably as a second cut, like, you know, if you can imagine, so bear with me. So basically the idea is if you're going to get this thing sculpted, ultimately, you're going to have to get it cut into multiple pieces because it's not going to be castable. That's how most minis work. You sometimes can get a single cast, which honestly this was close to. It just depends on the sculptor you work with, but if you're working with someone and you want like a really elaborate, nice thing, you're going to have to get cuts made. X-Men. I luckily art director for a board game company. You kind of learn a lot about this. So basically, you have to cut under the chin because all this would be a problem. Beyond that too, like because this stuff falls underneath and could get caught up on a mold. And the idea is like, so if you look at the mold over here, like you can't just yank this model out of there because this is all solid resin around it. So basically it would get caught under the sword, under the crotch, under the chin, under the horns, and it would get caught up. But the idea is that if you take this thing into multiple pieces and cut them up, it's going to be way more easily castable. And if you're working with a good sculptor, he'll key all of those cuts. The idea of a key is like imagine a circle and there's a rectangular shape and then there's a rectangular hole for it to connect into. That way there's like no missing when you're actually going to assemble these things. If you're working with a good sculptor, all that stuff will come into play. Anyways, yeah, so that's why I wouldn't worry about the arms being like too far away from this thing. Because if it was too far, like if it's connected here, basically what you may be able to do sculpting wise is have you could have the arms, and like the arms and the upper body is one section, the head is another section, the legs are another section, the tail's another section, and the sword could almost be connected to the legs. Like honestly, having the arms further out would probably just make more of an issue than anything else. Or it would be just a different type of cut. It doesn't really matter. I think it looks a little cooler, a little closer to him. So, anyways, I'm going to continue on here. Alright, so here's my armor layer I was doing. So now this has... Yeah, the sculptor does the cuts. Except if you're doing mass production, then you leave it up to your mass producer to do the cuts. But typically, if you're working with a good sculptor and you ask them for production-ready cuts, they can do it for you. So here, I'm just going to do a mask layer because I like the detailing good. I don't want to lose it. I'm going to make all this disappear by detail. Nope, well, the people who do the molds will make a suggestion. of what the sculpt should be or where the cut should be. But ultimately it's up to the sculptor to actually physically make those cuts. It's 30%, that's what's screwing me up. Alright, so now we're working on armor. So I do like the idea of him having this like music makes me think of a teenager having a bad night on the town. Hold on a split second. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. All right. I'm just gonna do it down here. I'm gonna do a little. Do just a little cleanup for myself so I can kind of see things clearly. Kind of important to have the sword design in there. Okay. So it's starting to get cleaned up. It's good. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of want to dip this down to 20. All right. You do wings under the neck guard. Actually, I'm going to do them in front of the neck guard. The idea is the neck guard is kind of there to catch it, but the wings are going to be mostly at that point kind of claws and bone, so it'll be a little hard to jack up. That's right, I gotta do shoulder armor. Tell you what, I'm gonna take a look at some reference. Okay. Short up a little bit. Yes, I'm still watching. Thank you. This sounds weird. Okay. So do you have armor references? No. I'm just going. So I have the references you sent me, so I'm at least keeping those in mind. Like, I know you have the elbow armor that's supposed to be, you know, the big kind of round versions of that. I know you're going to have pauldrons, which I may do something like this. You have armor references, various styles. Yeah, I can design in a variety of styles. It just depends on the actual design. So your character, I know he's not a paladin, but there's not a lot of difference between designing big armor set pieces for someone who's a protector and a paladin. So basically, I'm designing off of kind of my overall idea of what those guys would look like. So oh, the color scheme. I don't know, man. Color scheme's pretty easy. Color scheme is one of those things that can surprisingly change on a dime. By the way, forgive me, this is a little rougher than I normally operate, but yeah, just testing out armor designs. Basically, I've got a great visual data bank, like in my head, of what a lot of this stuff looks like. And I just kind of mix and match things in my head to work for the current design. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with paladins. I've got a Wayfarer design I'm doing for Leclerc's Revenge. That's it's kind of like a paladin, but he's a paladin of the sea, and basically the sea tells him where to go. You know what? I like this pauldron, but I want it to be bigger. Which is always part of the fun, isn't it? We're just gonna do a little whisker-do there. Actually, this will come out like this, directly into it. It'll probably be a big old circular piece connecting them. And then these would come out, and then this is a circular piece that would come here. But there's nothing saying. Can't have some weird winging off doodad over here. Maui? As in the Hawaiian god? Or demigod? Give him a big crazy eye. Alright, I think I like this overall, but I want it to be a little bit bigger, a little bit squatter. Then, yeah. The way these things usually work is they're like another little underlayer. We're gonna just make this like a reinforced leather. Oh. Yeah, I wish this character was more like Maui, but I think it's going to end up being more stern and rigid. You know, a paladin. Oh yeah, that's my keyboard. So I have a mechanical gaming RGB rainbow keyboard, and it's freaking ridiculous. And but you know, I kind of love it. And the only problem is, this is a mechanical keyboard, is it is loud. It's so unbelievably loud. Sometimes I worry at night, like if I'm playing games with friends, it immediately is just like, oh god, what are you typing? feel like having a bit. Alright, he's starting to come together. What I'm imagining is we give him some hip armor. You know, like cut into the belt a bit. Come in.
Seven, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Oh, this you crazy mother.
Let me see. Armor's fun. Ooh. Ugh. Dude, you're killing me here. Go Shark, what are you doing? Oh yeah. That'd be useful if the elbow armor actually covered up the elbow. Just one of those technical little things. See, we'll do that. Like this having almost like pads. Yeah, this is coming along. Oof, I'm already on layer 14 here. It just depends. This one's a little bit more involved because, you know, it's a commission. I want to treat it a little bit differently. There's a fair amount. I mean, typically through this stage, I'll use as many as I can or want to. Not really worrying about how many layers I do and don't use. Really because it kind of stifles everything. Yeah, I mean, sometimes it just depends. Like when I'm in the coloring stages, you know, all the layer count will change rapidly based on what I'm doing. You know what, we're gonna do a little armor layer, and then we're gonna come in here and we're gonna do this, and we're gonna cut in. Nice. What animal is it? So, hey Robert, thanks for joining in. So this isn't actually just a basic animal. Since this is a commission, we're getting a little wilder here, and we are doing a kind of dragon. Oh Lord. Yeah. Let me see here. But yeah, Tristan's come up. Ooh, how do I feel about making the shoulders a bit broader? Well, again, good time to do it. There we go. Actually, you know what? I think part of the deal is that I need to... There we go. Yeah. Also, I could theoretically do... Yay, Photoshop. You know, I can't remember the last time I drew a pauldron in this much detail from this angle. This thing's gonna be a beast color, but it'll be fun. Actually, hold on, I think I need to. It kind of does with the teeth right here. With color, it'll make a lot more sense. Oh, the music stopped. Okay, hold on. Oh my god. Yes, I'm still watching. Monsters. Gotta get rid of this crazy eye. usually goes to fat line than not, but you know, place some little discoveries. Working in Photoshop is basically going, why did that just happen? And then you figure out exactly why that just happened, and 90% of the time it's your fault. Let me see, I feel like this needs a little bit more. Yeah. So let's start combining this stuff together and see what we got ultimately. Let me see. This layer up, and let's get rid of. Oop, no, wrong. There we go. By the way, as you guys are hearing my full, unfettered, unbroken dialogue, mental dialogue as I work on this. Typically, this is all stuff I internalize, but since I've got a crowd, it works a little bit differently. Let's see where we sit. Whoops. No. Right. Make this go back to 20%. Boop. Do I put motifs through armor or whatever feels right? It depends. Once I start adding little details to armor, I kind of continue that visual aesthetic through the whole thing. Like on the pauldron, like on the neck piece, I did this little spike right around his neck, right up in here. And then I started continuing that through into his pauldron and his other pauldron, and his claws kind of have something similar. So there's certain things that I start doing that kind of set the tone for the whole piece, and I kind of just keep it up from there. Set that to 100. I'm also going to do a little, ooh, alright. Fun fact, can't be having that nonsense. I'm going to do a little bit to help separate these two out. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, this dude's armored to the teeth. funny what a few darker lines will do to help separate out shapes. Let's go the middle. Add a big old spiky bit in there. You know what? Kind of digging this leg pauldron, but I don't think it's big enough. We're just gonna, yeah, that looks more appropriate. Okay. Oof, yep. 100%. I have absolutely been working on a piece and gone, I don't like any of this, and just completely gotten rid of it. Now, that process is also physically painful, because, you know, you may be having some parts of the design you really like, and you really like how they turned out. Then suddenly you've got to go like, nope, this isn't good anymore. I absolutely had Wander designs that had that happen to them. Oh, the bear shark, I worked on that like 3 or 4 different ways to Sunday, and let me tell you, some of those first iterations were atrocious. You know what? I think I need to make this sticker. Yeah, the first version of the bear shark I ever drew, it looks like music. You're absolutely killing me here. it just kind of looks like a sad wet rat. And you know, the core of the pose was there, but it still was a little depressing. God, yes, I'm still watching. You're killing me. What? This would be strapped in. God, this guy's armored to the teeth, and I dig it. I'll tell you, actually, the most painful time I ever remember having a design get scrapped was professional work. You know, because we like to think of ourselves as, you know, not any singular piece is going to be like a one and done, but you know, you can hope you're going to do good stuff. But now I've had professional clients go like, "That's terrible, do it again," and I'm just like, "Cool, I just spent 4 hours on this." Actually, it's artwork that I can talk about. So Tristan here's asking, what's my favorite art that never saw the light of day? I've got 2 projects that I worked on. And I won't say who they're for, but I will say, well, I'll kind of say who they're for. One was a game about fantasy racing, like a dwarf or an elf or a pixie or a gnome or a goblin or something riding on some kind of creature. And I did a lot of art for that game and a lot of really fun designs, and the thing just never came to fruition, and it was a complete freaking bummer. I don't think I can show that. I'm still technically under an NDA, non-disclosure agreement, for that stuff. But there was another project, and everyone I know who worked there on the project left, and I finally asked permission if I could share that work, and they said yes. So that was for a officially licensed D&D game that was called the Thieves Guild. Basically, the idea is you played D&D thieves, trying to basically outsteal each other, and whoever could steal like the best stuff won. And yeah, the only problem with that was that there we go. The problem was that one of the lead designers, which I can't remember his name off the top of my head, this was years ago, one of the lead project leads died. He had a complication to his surgery and he passed away, and it was a pretty big loss for everyone involved, and I don't blame them at all. But hold on a second, I need to, here we go. You know, it was one of those things where we were all working on it. It was a passion project. We were all excited, and then that happened, and we kind of all walked away from it. And the thing that stinks is, I mean, obviously the guy passing away, like he was a super nice dude. Really a pleasure to work with, but beyond that too, it was kind of a big break for me. It was a D&D game, and you know, I had dreamed of making art for a D&D game for as long as I can think of. And it just didn't come to fruition. But I got about 3 or 4 complete designs from beginning to end, and you know, I'm still to this day super proud of that stuff, and it's actually on my portfolio, which is wordpress.artofhf.com, I think. I don't know, not off the top of my head. I'll look it up in a second. But yeah, I mean, I can officially claim I got paid to do licensed D&D work, even if that D&D work didn't see the light of day. But you know, I'll take whatever win I can get. Let me see. But yeah, man, working on a D&D project and then having it kind of bomb out at the last second, that was probably one of the roughest ones. I also had an opportunity to work with Privateer Press, and that just did not pan out. I had a scheduling conflict, and I was working on something else at the time, and just ended up bombing out on the project. And, you know, that one hurt, but eventually I got over it. Eventually I kind of started moving in the right direction again and bounced back and started doing stuff, so that was good. Do you want him to have 20 pouches? I can give him 20 pouches. Listen, if you smartmouth me, don't think for a second I won't be able to apply a pouch in every single possible place. Gonna do a mild amount of cheating. Well, technically it's not cheating, it's all possible in Photoshop. Nope. Oh, so close. Here we go. And then... Nope. Alright, so let's see. I think it needs a little bit more. Let me do a little research here. Okay. One complete whip sword. Let me just clean up around the edges. It's funny, I knew this guy in high school. His name was Daniel. And I actually knew a couple Daniels in high school, actually thinking about it. But Daniel was really excited about drawing suddenly. You know, I'd never really done it before, but you know. But he was super excited and he just started drawing weaponry and stuff. And I was like, that's cool, man. Just keep it up. And he drew all sorts of like weird fantasy weapons and items and stuff. It was actually pretty cool. And then he discovered a cute girl in class and that ended. I don't blame him. I don't blame him at all. Alright, let's notch that up. This layer. You know what? I'm going to actually tone that back a little bit. Let me go to your sword here. Sorry, my computer was doing a remix there. Alright, so he needs foot armor. And I'm imagining this is going to be layered to a certain degree. His foot moves a lot more interesting ways. Normal feet. Oh yeah, that's from Bleach, right? Well, again, man, your commission. If you want it to not be standard, that's up to you. I'm more than capable. Okay. Sounds good, friend.
I'm saying come through, you know. I got, you never know what can happen, you know what I'm saying?
I don't know.
You might get a little physical, I think I'm ready to make that.
Okay, that's creepy. Alright, so let's make this sword a little bit more unique.
Everybody's climbing.
So, that sword from Bleach you mentioned is... Everything in Wander kind of makes sense. I mean, it's giant animals walking around and saving the world, but everything in Wander makes sense to a degree. Like, cannons have flint that they need to use, or they have a wig that you need a light to shoot them, and there's swords and weapons. It's, we have to set a certain standard with these things. I think, though, with some kind of weapon like this, actually, we can just straight up turn off that layer for now. We just have one angry ghost cycloptic eyeball, armor, and a sword. Nice. I think if it's up to me, what I would want to do to make this unique is add spikes. that. Let's do... So with a whip sword, I'm gonna go ahead and imagine that it's kind of important for it to be sharp on both ends, because that sword from Bleach, it's cool looking, but man, it is also wily. You know, it's a giant one-sided blade. The thing that makes it cool is he can control it and use an ability with it and stuff, whereas, you know, with Wander, he may be able to do some stuff, but he's not going to, like, transform it into some giant bone dragon or something. So I'm going to... I think keeping it double-sided is smart. But I think there's a way that we can make it way scarier. Like, you want to talk about protecting someone. If someone walked up with a giant bladed whip with, like, lacerated teeth on either side of it, I'd be running screaming. I'd also be curious where he got it. But, you know. Okay. Yay. Okay. Oh. Tristan, I'm going to call this the Ouchinizer. I'm not going to lie. I know this is your commission, but I'm kind of co-opting it now. Because I think this is hilarious. By hilarious, I mean mean and vicious. And if you're like, hey guys, this is my D&D character, they'd be like, what? So let's go to that. Ow. Yeah, that's what I'd do. Yes, it does. You see, there's a theme. There's a thought process going into this. And I hope you're liking it, man. I'm glad I could finally get around to getting a chance to do this. Oh my god, that's the meanest looking thing ever. This is going to be fun to color, too, once I get to it. Alright, I'm still connected to everything. Cool. Release. Let me see, I'll do that. Alright, so Tristan, what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw this guy fully out. Well, I'm already doing that, really. But I'm going to draw this guy about as fully out as I can, and then I'm going to start working on integrating the wings into everything once I'm there. So don't worry, I haven't forgotten about him. How do you know you liked part of the process of art when you realize it's almost been 3 hours and you didn't even realize it? Or you barely realized it just now? Oh yeah. Oh, the wings are one of the most important parts of this to you, man. I can tell. That's cool. It's your character. Do with it what you will. So I'm imagining these things hanging off the back are like scales. He's got his own natural scale mail armor. Yeah, this dude's intimidating. Do I prefer the tentacle type hair or the webbed fun look? What do you mean by webbed fun look? Elaborate if you don't mind. So you know the tentacle hair you're talking about. I'm a pretty big fan ever since I watched Star Wars Episode 1 all those years ago. Not a huge fan of the movie, but I like the designs. I think that tentacle type hair turned into dreadlocks in my mind for a lot of characters. I mean, if you look at Mary Fixit, and there's an original design for Reyna where she had hair like that. There's a lot of neat stuff like that. Oh, hello, wife. Scaled hair, yeah. I don't know. I think it depends. I think the scaled hair kind of looks like feathers, so I think that's a neat aspect. But, you know, on a dragon-like character, it would actually be scales. I think it just depends on what I'm drawing. Yeah, if I'm drawing an alien with cynical hair all days, but if I'm drawing something that's more bird-esque. Webbed fin. Yeah, those can be fun. You know what? I just realized something. He is a dragon. So webbed fin for like the tail. Okay. Huh, yeah. Oh my god. Hey, Facebook's still streaming. Nice. Oh, you're talking about. I know what you're talking about now. You're talking about something like this. And then it's a web. Like that, and then I could even go into the tail. I think that's what you were talking about. I think it depends. I think it's a cool look. It kind of looks prehistoric. I think that's more of wyverny instead of dragony. That's pretty cool. All right, so I think it's way up here. Yes, I'm gonna have to adjust that. Ooh. Oh, I don't know. It just depends. Depends on the day. Depends on what mood I'm in. Depends on the dragon, I guess, too. You know, like, fins imply a kind of aquatic nature. So, you know, I've seen some dragons with giant fins. In my mind, that would be used as, like, I don't know. I could see a bit of a back fin just due to something like controlling your airflow when you're flying, or using fins for like fish to help them kind of cut through the sea. But I think it really just depends. Like generally, if you're putting fins on something, I'd want it to have some degree of purpose to it. Like, I'm thinking there's a Godzilla enemy, actually. Who, yes, I'm a giant nerd. There's a Godzilla enemy, who has a giant fin on him. Actually, you know what I want to do? I want to move this like that a little bit. It's slightly off center. There's a Godzilla enemy who's got a giant fin. Can't remember what his name was, but, he had some really cool stuff as far as that was concerned. Oh, do we want to do the Batman take on this, or do we want to do the Gargoyles take on this? I can't remember. I think I'm gearing up to do the Gargoyles take on this. Actually thinking about it. Tell you what, chat is a little bit slow, and I think I can draw this out quicker. Yeah, there still may be a way to preserve the pauldrons too in this process. Let me see. Dragon wings. Dragon wings flying around, seeing so many things. You know what? Something about this feels unbalanced to me. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna do some overlapping. Here's what we're gonna do. Make another one of those.
Maybe you're in Australia, maybe even on the coast, disguised in regalia and making the most of a
Oh, thanks, man. Glad you like it. Well, actually, really glad you like it. Alright, so there's one variation, which I think I'm going to continue turning. Bam. Okay, so there's one variation. Call that version 1. Like that. Nope, not okay to tweak at all. Totally undoable. I'm just kidding. Yeah, of course. Give me a second. That sword adjustment's going to be a pretty major change. Especially at this stage. I could see. Might be doable. All right. So here's the idea. We have option 1, where it's around his collar. And then we have option 2, where it's wrapped around his shoulders. So option 1. Option 2. Or, better yet, oh Lord, it does not like it just did. I might just have a computer freeze on my hands. Hold on. Oh boy. Okay. Sorry about that. Yeah, that's super weird. Alright, hold on. My computer's having a conniption right now. Oh, alright, hold on. Alright, I think it stopped having a conniption. Alright. So Tristan, we're coming up on digging 2 more? Batman cape? Alright, can do. Oh, all right. Well, I know we talked about the belt there, bud. How about this? If it's okay with you, I'm going to. Yeah. I'm going to fix that at a later date because it is nearly 4 o'clock and we are about at that time where the stream ends. I think this is pretty good progress so far. Cool. So I'm going to save this. Oh no, not live stream files. Call this. Cool. I mean, thanks for tuning in the whole time, man. It's been delightful. I'm also glad we could get to a stage where this thing is happening. He's gonna be cool. He's gonna be real cool. So I may have a couple of little adjustments I want to make. Because, let me see. Let me try something. Yeah, I think there's a couple of little things I need to do. I think that's part of it. I think if I was to use lighter. Yeah. Just making some little micro notes. Oh, 5 a.m. start. That's brutal, man. Yeah, I'll take more of a look at it another time, see what's up. Very short term, we'll do this. Make sure we have a nice pretty image on our hands. Oh, I gotta save it as JPEG. Cool. Cool. 5 a.m. equals your 1 p.m., but I had to be here. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Well, I'm glad we can make some serious progress on this thing, man. Alright, with that, I think I'm going to conclude the stream. Thank you so much for anyone who tuned in, and thank you so much, Tristan, for being here and walking me through this whole process. I really do appreciate it. You're welcome, man. Well, anyways, make sure anyone who watches this after the fact to like and subscribe to my stuff. Got a YouTube channel under my username, which is fully1234. We got an Instagram and Facebook at Art of HF, and I'm on Twitch as Heathosaurus Art. That's Heath, H-E-A-T-H, Saurus Art. Yeah, and like I said, I'm not really doing this to try and bring in a ton of viewers and whatnot. I'm just it's more kind of like having a digital recording of me working in a prime state I've got. So anyways, yeah, that's it. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, and all that jazz. And until next time, which I'm doing this on Tuesdays and Thursdays now, I will see you guys then. All right, take it easy. Bye.